in and join Mark Lewis and R.O.A. for an exclusive interview with Kelly Garni from Quiet Riot. Real rock and roll news. From the legends of rock, you found rockonamerica.live. We're bringing rock and roll to America and beyond. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe.
Welcome to an exclusive interview with Kelly Garni, the original bassist of Quiet Riot, an American heavy metal band that rocked the world of music. Established in the heart of Los Angeles in 1973, Quiet Riot was the brainchild of guitarist Randy Rhoads and bassist Kelly Garni. Their music, a symphony of heavy metal, resonated with millions, etching their names into the annals of rock history. Rhoads' electrifying riffs and Garni's pulsating bass lines created a sonic revolution, pushing the boundaries of what was considered possible in the genre. Today, we delve into the origins of Quiet Riot, as Garni shares the tale of their rise to fame and the legacy they've left behind. Hear about the highs and lows, the triumphs, and the challenges from the man who lived it all. This is the story of Quiet Riot, told by Kelly Garni himself.
Hi, this is Mark with Rock Over America magazine, and today I have the distinct pleasure, I say that a lot, you guys are probably hearing that a lot, but I have a distinct pleasure today. Somebody that a lot of people have wondered whatever happened to him. This is some guy that for me kind of fell off the face of the earth and I didn't know what happened to him until recently, and I'm glad he's still here with us. He's going to have a very, very amazing story for you. With me today is one of the founding members, along with Randy Rhoads, from Quiet Riot. That's how a lot of you guys know. That's what basically all you guys know who he is. He's still here alive and kicking. He has a lot of great stories and a lot of great memories, and he's still out here performing, and he's doing a lot of great things. With me today is Kelly Garni, and from Quiet Riot, and with a whole lot of things, and currently he's in a band called King's Crossing. How are you doing today, Kelly?
I'm doing pretty good. You know, I'm living the life, I guess. Living large.
Well, let's do this, because there's a lot to talk, and it's going to take a little bit, but let's go back to the beginning. Who were your musical influences growing up?
Well, prior to meeting Randy, you know, I was listening to basically, you know, the music of the 60s, the Doors, the Beatles especially,
okay.
Stones, and, you know, my mom listened to them, so, then I met Randy, and we were kind of influenced a little bit in the beginning by Hendrix.
Okay.
There was another band that came along that nobody ever heard of called Krabby Appleton.
Can I throw in at you too? Because when ever Hendrix was mentioned, like I mentioned, there's a lot of people know Frank Marino Mahogany Rush. Did they have an impact at all?
No.
No.
Not at all.
Okay. Some people that does. I throw that out there. Some people that does.
Mainly, for us, I mean, the happening thing for us was Alice Cooper. The second we heard Alice Cooper, that's all we cared about. And
now, you guys are from Southern California, right?
Yeah, Bergen, California.
Okay, did you ever see Alice Cooper back in the day before he moved the band to Detroit, when he tried to play out there at all back in the beginning, like 70?
Our first concert was Alice Cooper at Long Beach Auditorium, which I guess they've torn down now.
What year was that, you remember?
71.
Okay, but that was just before he took off for Detroit. No, that was after he took off for Detroit, but he had played, I didn't know if you guys had seen him, he was trying to make the circuit out there, and it was too much peace and love in that, so there were bands like Frigid Pink and stuff like that. He took off for Detroit, and the Stooges and all that, so he just took off for Detroit.
Yeah. And every time Alice Cooper played, we went to his shows. We saw every album show. Alice's shows followed a theme that went along with his albums: $1 Billion Babies, Schooling Out. We saw all those shows. And then, of course, David Bowie came along, and then we started going to David Bowie shows.
Okay.
And those were our two main influences right there. But another band that heavily influenced us, and it happened sort of accidentally, was that...
Can I interject this real quick? So you basically, together, along with Randy, that's kind of where your influence came along with Randy. You guys kind of fed back off each other going, wow, that's really great, Kelly. And you were like, well, Randy, and that's cool, check out. So you guys kind of together you guys got influenced. Okay.
We learned every Alice Cooper song, and Randy and I met when I was 11. He was a year older, and he went to a different school, and their school system, he went to a parochial school. And to come into the school system where I was, which was public school, they had to put him in a grade that was maybe lower than he should have been in, but that's just how their system worked. But a band that really had a big impact on us, and again, it was sort of an accident. When we went to see Alice Cooper, there was supposed to be a band called Savage Grace, who did a song that we really liked called Lovely Lady of the Mountain.
Great.
And we wanted to see them. Well, we got there, and Savage Grace wasn't playing. Instead, it was Black Oak, Arkansas. And we said, who's Black Oak, Arkansas? We didn't...
That's going way back, too, yeah. They were amazing, too.
They were. And when we saw them, they warmed up for Alice, and we were just like, oh, my God, who are these guys? And we started, like, after the show and everything, we were just blown away. I mean, it was our first concert. And so I had Black Oak and Alice Cooper. And we couldn't really run around looking like Alice Cooper, but we sure could run around and look like Black Oak. And so we did everything that they did. We grew our hair like them. They wore jeans that they embroidered patches all over, and we learned how to sew. And so if you see any pictures, I have old pictures from back then. All of our pants had all the patches on them that we sewed on by hand.
Okay.
And we actually ended up making a lot of our clothes too. We'd go to the thrift shops, and we didn't have any money, so we'd just steal things. And we figured people were giving it away anyway. And we were our own favorite charity. So
was Randy? Were you guys already playing music? Were you playing bass and was?
Yeah. We met in school, and he was somebody that I saw, and I said, there's something about that person. There's something different about that person, and I found him to be very fascinating. Everybody else just ignored him. Everybody just walked right by him. He didn't have any friends. He just was by himself, and he sat by himself all the time, and I just found him fascinating. And so I watched him for a few days, and then finally I just walked up to him and introduced myself and sat down, and we talked, and he told me he played guitar, and we both thought that the school sucked, and we talked about that, and then he invited me over to his house, and I went over there, and he showed me how he played guitar. He hadn't learned the leads yet. He was just starting to learn leads. He already knew his rhythm. He was very, very good at rhythm already. His brother played drums at that time. His sister had a guitar. She played acoustic guitar. And his mother plays 17 different instruments and owns a music school.
She's Prince Jr., basically.
Yeah. And she, everybody around there was very musical except for me. And so I said, well, I want to play something. And he said, what do you want to play? And I thought, keyboards. And he said, no. You don't want to play keyboards because, actually his brother said it. He said, they're too heavy to haul around. And I said, so what should I play? And he said, bass. And I didn't really understand what a bass was, and he told me. And I said, okay, we'll do that. So we stole a bass eventually. But at first I learned bass on a Gibson Army-Navy special that was made in 1917. And it was sort of a family guitar. It sat in the living room. To this day, it's still there.
Well, that was like a stand-up thing then, right?
No, it was a very small guitar. It was made for the military, for guys to take in the war. So
okay, but that was an acoustic, though. That was electric, yeah. And
so he said, just play the first 4 strings on it. And I said, okay. And that's how he originally taught me how to play bass.
Okay.
And then...
you don't still have that thing, do you?
No, but it's still around.
Okay.
And I don't have it. They have it.
Okay. That thing has to be an amazing piece of musical history, just seeing that thing. I never even heard of that.
Yeah, it's you know, I had to tell them how valuable that guitar was. They said, well, we didn't know it. Now it's in a closet or something. It doesn't even have any strings on it. And I said, oh, you have no idea what that guitar is worth. I believe, the guitar was originally owned by, a man that would have been Randy's grandfather. He was a doctor, and he was a doctor in the military, and that was his guitar. He played it, and I guess he died or something.
If you take just the Randy Rhoads name and the Rhoads family name off, I would think that thing would be worth, because my stepdad played, he actually played once in a Grand Ole Opry. He had a 53 Les Paul Gold Top, which years ago, he ended up selling, and it went, at that time, back like 22 years ago, for about $1,500.
Mm-hmm.
And now Les Paul Gold Top, 53 Les Paul Gold Top is probably 20, 30 grand somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that thing would be like $100,000, $200,000.
Well, because of the history and this association, with Randy.
No, but even without Randy, I would think that thing would be upwards of at least $100,000 because I mean, it has to be rare.
Yeah, they would be rare. They were almost kind of throwaway guitars, but you know, they were made to go into a war and pretty much go through mud and rain and everything else, and just bumps here and there, you know, a soldier carrying it through a battle. And, you know, it was made specifically for morale purposes so that he could play, you know, some guy could play and sing, you know, that's what they do at night. And or day or whatever. And so it was made for that, and that was the model number. Army-Navy Special it was called, and that particular guitar was made in 1970.
And that's what you learned to play? That was your precursor?
That was my first bass, because I just, first thing he did was teach me all the notes, so he could tell me where to go.
Right.
Musically. He told me where to go a lot of times. So it didn't have anything to do with music. But,
another story.
Yeah, that's a whole other story. But I told him to go there too. So, but we eventually got a bass. We kind of lucked out. In his brother's band, Kelly's band, he had a guy that played bass by the name of Bob. And Bob had this girl he was very obsessed with, and he had this bass made with her name on it. And before that, he had like it couldn't have been more perfect for a little kid. It was actually a 3/4 size Fender Precision Japanese thing, and it actually played pretty well. In fact, I wish I still had it because it was a fast little bass. And but anyways, he got his wonderful bass he couldn't wait to get with this girl's name on it who didn't even to thank him for it. I think she went and married somebody else. But he put his old bass in the corner and it just sat there, and we were keeping an eye on it, and after a couple of weeks we said, well, we can put that to better use, and so we took it.
Okay.
And he really didn't even notice that it was gone, and if you know, he'd see us playing it, but he didn't care. You know?
So to step back for a second, second question I have is for the thing to influence you guys to actually perform them. Would that be Black Oak, Arkansas?
Black Oak, Alice Cooper, and David Bowie.
And that's what made you guys want to be musicians?
Yeah, and we wanted to be in that kind of a band. And instead I ended up wearing a sailor suit and then eventually getting onto a boat, which is sort of ironic. But, yeah.
And then so you went to the stint in the Navy, and then came back, and you guys started putting bands together?
No. The Navy thing is a whole separate thing. No, they made me wear a sailor suit in Quiet Riot. It's sort of a joke, really.
Okay.
It was funny all these years later.
But just for time frame, I mean, did you went into this? But you did do a stint in the service? No, you never did a stint in the service. Okay.
No, never. No. Yeah, that was a whole different thing. I'm sorry.
Do you mind talking about that, or is that kind of like, let's move forward?
Oh, Oh, I don't mind. No. You were asking about our influences.
Yeah, just the well.
That was the kind of band we wanted, but what we ended up with was Alice Cooper. Now, we did have one band in particular that was very David Bowie-like, and that band was called the Captain Jammer Kids.
Okay.
And we had a guy. We had learned one thing. We learned that singers were very hard to find. Drummers were growing on trees, but singers were hard to find. And some of the ones that we did find either were really nice guys and couldn't sing, or they could sing really good, and they were,
complete a-holes.
Yeah.
No.
And
that's what you call what's the term? I interviewed another band. What did they call that?
Lead singer disease.
Yeah, LSD. Yeah, lead singer.
But and they were always way older than us. I mean, because at this point, we're like 13 years old, and we played on the Sunset Strip when we were 13.
Nobody. That's rare even today. I've only run a few times in my life where you get a 15-year-old kid playing, and it's like you can come in and play, and now you got to leave. They hang out in the back or something because the drinking was.
Hollywood was a different place back then. You could. Rodney Bingenheimer's club was certainly a huge thing. It's almost unfair to any rock and roll fan that they didn't get to experience the whole scene at Rodney's, because it's almost undescribable how cool it was. There was nothing like it. And so we hung out there a lot. We played at Rodney's club a lot. I just recently acquired 150 rolls of film of us playing there, which is worth.
When you guys were 13 years old, man?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, amazing. Can I see that sometime? Can I take a peek at that?
It'll be in my book. I'm writing a book.
Okay.
And I was able to find people that other people couldn't find. And, I just got them a week or two ago. And they're amazing photos, and I have other ones coming as well.
Okay.
So,
we'll talk about that near the end of that, about the book and that. We'll cover that.
But that was our influences. That was the scene,
What were for a couple of the first bands before you went to Quiet Riot? So there's several things you said that when you started performing, it was all with Kelly, if I have that day, it was all with Randy.
Yeah.
So, what were a couple of one or two of the first bands that you guys did before Quiet Riot formed? Did that really stick in your mind? It was a lot of fun. You guys had a lot of good times.
Well, we had a band called Mildred Pierce, which had myself, Randy, a guy named Guy Panessa, who I still talk to this day. Very nice guy.
Was there a story behind the name of it? Why you guys came up with the name Mildred Pierce? Was that named after?
It was Alice Coopery, and we had just seen the movie on TV, and it's a freaky movie anyway. So So we said, oh, that's cool. Works for us. It sounds like Alice Cooper, and we dressed a little bit glittery and stuff with what we were able to put together with the clothes that we stole and cut up and put together with other clothes and things like that. We cut sequins off of something and put it on something else. We were actually little miniature clothes designers. And so Mildred Pierce was one band. That band we only played locally in Burbank. We did a school dance at our junior high where we would get beat up every day. But they let us play there and yelled at us for playing too loud, of course. But every musician in the world has that story. But Mildred Pierce was that band. On drums was Drew Forsythe, who later became the original drummer in Quiet Riot.
Okay.
Drew went to school with us, and he was known as like the hot guy drummer. And so he was in that band with us. Guy Panessa sang.
And he could bring all the girls.
Yeah.
No.
Well.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we won't even go there. Okay, we'll just...
No, if anybody got girls, it was Randy. Let me tell you. I couldn't even bring a girlfriend to rehearsal to try and impress her because she'd fall in love with him, and then I'd get so mad at him, and I'd say, God damn, this happens every time, I meet a girl, and I tell them I'm in a band, and hey, you want to go to my rehearsal and hear the band play? And they're all like, okay, and they're all excited, and I bring them there, and they fall in love with Randy, and it happened every time, and I'd get so mad at them, because I'd look at them, and I'd go, I don't understand, you're so ugly. You are so ugly. Why did they fall in love with you? And, he just had that way about him that made people just adore him, and no one adored him more than I. And I've proved that for 30 years, and 42 if you want to count them all.
Okay, what was another band? Just one more really quick, just maybe, just the band.
When we were kids, we had a guy we turned into a singer. We went out and bought dresses, and we put him in dresses, and he was a David Bowie impersonator.
Was there a band that just before Quiet Riot that led to that incarnation of that? That was the stepping stone.
No.
Okay.
No, it was always me and Randy and whoever we could get. There were quite a few years of learning where we didn't have a band. We just jammed with anybody who would play with us.
Okay.
Burbank had a very fertile musical ground back then. There was a lot of musicians. Everybody got along. There was no jealousy. And we knew houses where people were playing, and we would show up at their house, and they'd be jamming. And then we'd step in and we'd jam, And same thing went with, if we were jamming at his house or something, If there was a park that everybody jammed at. Actually, there were several. Whoever showed up first basically ran the deal. And if you wanted to jam, everybody was like, sure, man, come on up. So we were constantly playing with different musicians. Everybody was older than us. Nobody was our age. Everybody was like, 3, 4, or 5.
Were people blown away? Were people blown away by how good you guys played?
Oh yeah.
Your age?
Yeah. They couldn't even. They're like, who are these little kids? Why are they blowing away the older guys? But we didn't see it that way. We didn't set out to do that. We didn't set out to blow anybody away. We just liked playing, and so we just played. And it wasn't about blowing anybody away.
Yeah.
And nobody actually, quite honestly, in Burbank at that time, nobody felt that way. That wasn't anybody's
fault. Just like a big family back then.
It was a big, and everybody, and maybe somebody wasn't so good, but everybody let them play anyway.
So how did Quiet Riot form? First of all, where did you guys get the name? Was that still kind of going up that like David Bowie, Alice Cooper thing, or was it?
No, it was a completely different thing. Quiet Riot was formed. We were hanging out at Rodney.
Well, first of all, how did you guys decide upon the name?
We didn't. Kevin Dubrow was somewhat of a photographer before we met him. He liked,
really?
Yeah, he liked a lot of English bands, so he went to a lot of concerts.
Did he work for like Rolling Stone or a newspaper or anything?
He basically did it for himself. And he saw a band called Status Quo.
Yes, I remember there. Yeah.
He went backstage and he was hanging out with them, and they have the heavy Cockney accent. And one of them, Richie Parfait, specifically said, if I ever have my own band, I'm going to call it Quiet Riot. And he was saying Quiet Riot.
Yeah.
But Kevin thought that he said Quiet Riot.
Right.
And so he said, well, that's a cool name for a band. And so that's where the name came from.
Okay.
But that's not what formed the band.
Okay, but first of all, I want to start with how the name came up with the name, because there's all sorts of interesting stories, just like we're going to talk about yours too, Zach, in a little bit.
Quiet Riot actually was named, believe it or not, before Quiet Riot, it was named Little Women. I don't know who thought that one up. But,
so you guys actually performed first as Little Women?
Nope, never.
Okay.
Our very first show was what would have been me and Randy's senior prom, had we been allowed to graduate.
Okay.
We weren't allowed to, so...
well, do you mind talking about that? Why?
No. Well, first of all, we couldn't be in regular school because everybody would beat us up.
Okay.
And now they all want to be my friend on Facebook, which is hilarious. And In fact, I'm going to interview people that used to kick my ass in my book. I am. Not just one or two.
I believe you.
I'm already...
Facebook thing's amazing, isn't it? You find these people you haven't talked to in like 30 years.
Well,
who are you?
If they want to friend me on Facebook, then you're going to get to be in my book, and you can tell everybody why you kicked their ass. And you call them fags, and every day, there was a big rumor, the two gay guys are going to get...
That's what they thought you were, the gay guy?
They thought you were gay, because we gave them good reason. We wore big, tall, high heels, when no one else was wearing them. And I'm not talking lady shoes. I'm talking about plastic.
You like the David Bowie stuff and stuff like that was popular back in the 70s for musicians.
We would dress like that, just cool. And sometimes we'd even wear makeup. And everybody was freaked out by it. And, we're talking white bread America, or Burbank here. There was only one black person in the whole school. And so if you come along and you start dressing freaky and shit, you're going to get your ass kicked.
Yeah, I actually did an interview with somebody, and I'm not going to say who it is because I can't remember exactly, but it's one of two people. I'll play you off of this. But anyways, he was over in England in the early 60s, and he got in trouble for it. And it's amazing how James got for having a Beatles haircut.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, we started growing our hair, and, that was we had kind of Beatle-like haircuts at first, and then it got longer and longer, and, we got freakier and freakier looking, and we found, and I write about this in my book as well, that we found acceptance among lowriders. They actually didn't have a problem with us. It was the jocks and the real pretty girls, and they...
it's always the jocks and the preps that have problems.
They were called socias and greasers back then.
And what's amazing about the jocks and the preps and that, they're the ones that end up have been a guy went to school voted most successful, turned out to be one of the biggest losers in school.
Yeah. Well, I wonder about something, and I write about this in my book as well. But the two main books that they made us read in school and they were required reading. Actually, there was 3 books. You were supposed to read The Cross and the Switchblade.
Okay.
I don't remember who.
That was the guy. I can't remember his name. He became a preacher.
Yeah, they made us read that, and then they made us read The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton, and which is clearly a book about division. Among teenagers and social classes and who you are and all that. And then they made us read Clockwork Orange. And that was the only book that made any sense to me. And we made good use of it because Clockwork Orange, if no one's ever read it, it's a very interesting book to read because...
it's a very twisted book, too.
It's very twisted.
And the movie's even more so.
Yeah, and you have to constantly refer to a dictionary in the back of the book because there's a lot of vocabulary in the book that's based in Russian, Gypsy languages that are very obscure.
Yeah.
And so they talk like that in the book. And so we learned that language, and we could speak it. And then we added our own things, too, because it's not an actual language. It was just a literary exercise that basically, was a language invented for the purpose of the book.
Right.
And to show that these guys had their own thing going on where they spoke their own language. Now, that was something we could relate to. So we grabbed
what's the question that you've always been wondering about? You say that you've always been wondering about this.
Why would a school system make a bunch of kids read a book like The Outsiders, which is a great book?
Oh, yeah, it's a great book.
Why would they make kids read that? That's what I want to know. There's already social classes when you walk into school in the first place. You've got your lowrider types, although now it's like they're gangsters, and then you've got your guys that are jocks.
Probably the same reason. Did you ever see that movie about where the school, I think it was in Illinois or California, where they got the kids and divided them by eye color, and then they bring out their hero. They're going to meet their hero. right? And so the kids who had the blue eyes were persecuting the kids with the other colored eyes, right? Or something along those lines, is basically eye color. And they get them all in assembly. They have them dressed a certain way, and their hero was Adolf Hitler. And this was done as a social experiment in the school. And it created extremely bad division, and it replicated Nazi Germany, basically. And this was running amok in the school.
Yeah.
And so they basically did that quickly because it was just getting out of sync to the point that kids were being beat up and everything else because, you don't have blue eyes, so, I don't know. If somebody twisted idea of a social experiment, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. But it was, back then, the socias were called socias by the rest of us, just like in the book. And the lowriders were called greasers, although they actually got to share lowrider, that term as well. But we found acceptance in them, and they kind of looked out for us a little bit. And they were actually really cool people, and I've been making contact with some of them as well. So not only do I have interviews in my book of people who kicked my ass, but I'm also going to have interviews with people who protected us.
Okay.
Just to be fair.
Now let's go into where the band started. Now you had Drew Forsythe Drew was in another band before, and you said that was the first drummer. So he had played with you guys previously.
He had played with us previously, and Randy and I had gone to Rodney Bingenheimer's club. And the thing about Rodney's club was what was so cool about it was in California the bars had to close at 2. Well, Rodney just locked the door at 2 o'clock, and if you were in, you were in, and if you were out, you were out.
Now, let me ask you, what year was this?
That would be 73.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Van Halen started either right around the same time or a couple of years after that, right? Because they
were known as Mammoth, and they were playing over in Pasadena and Altadena, and that was their territory. And
the only other thing of mention that came just a little bit later was Sister, which became Circus Circus, which became Lost. I mean, that was kind of the ones that went on to be anything really big out of that time frame. Were you three guys, basically? Because, that predates Striper and all that, too, because they came up a little bit later.
Right. Yeah, they were 80s guys. We were digging the trenches in the 70s. But we had been at Rodney's all night long. You could be 12 or 13 years old and go up to the bar in Rodney's and get served a beer. And nobody asked for your ID or anything. And it was just an insane scene. It's a whole interview unto itself. But anyways, we left at some point, and we stayed the night at a girl named Hillary's house. And Hillary was a good friend of ours. And the next morning, she was up. I think Randy was sleeping because we just crashed wherever. And I heard her on the phone. She was talking to a girlfriend of hers, and she was talking about some guy that was a singer. And I heard her talking. He sings. And he looks like Rod Stewart and all these things. She was talking about the singer, and I was like, singer? I'm always looking for a singer. So I went in there and I said, Hillary, who's this guy? Who's this singer? Oh, he's some guy named Kevin, and he goes to Van Nuys High, and I guess he's a singer because he dresses like one. But no one's heard him sing. And I went, oh, well, can you get his number for me? And she said, sure. And she did get his number. And I called him up, and we were driven out there by Kirk Carsey, who I just talked to the other day. And Keir drove us out there. I took 2 quarts of Budweiser with me and walked into his house. His mom took one look at us and was just like, what the hell just walked in my house? And these little kids with big, huge bottles of beer. And we went in Kevin's room, and he had a 8mm film of him singing with Stan Sobel, bass player by the name of Billy, who eventually killed himself. He was actually a bass student of mine. But Stan Sobel went on to form a band called the Dickies. And there was another guy in there, too, who I think might have ended up in the Dickies, too. But Kevin was doing 2 things in the video. There was no sound because it was 8mm, not super
right.
And he was jumping around, acting like a singer, and we looked at that, and we went, and it was a little goofy to us back then. And boy, you know, it's a good thing. Well, I can't say that, but he always hated it when I told this story, and he used to yell at me every time he'd see it in the magazine.
Well, if you don't want to say, you don't have to.
Well, I don't mind telling the story. It's just that I'm a little bit sad he's not around to, you know, tell me not to tell it.
Okay.
But, anyways, he was also playing drums in the video, because Kevin could play drums, and he was pretty good. And not many people know that. And he was all excited, you know, and really wanted to play with us, but he wasn't really what we were looking for. And so we basically gave him a, you know, don't call us, we'll call you, and we left. And, well, he kept calling and calling and calling and calling. He wouldn't leave us alone. When are we jamming? When are we going to play? When can I sing for you guys? And, you know, and it's like, oh my God. And we weren't mean enough to say no. So
right.
Finally we said, all right, we'll give you a chance. And he came over to Randy's house, and we sang he sang in the garage. And, we thought he was absolutely horrible. And my how things changed, because now I think he's one of the greatest frontmen who ever lived, vocally and performance-wise. And I'd say that with no prejudice whatsoever. I mean, I've seen him, and I've never seen anybody work as hard as he did on stage. And anybody that's seen him would agree.
Right. And I have seen him before.
Yeah, he works his ass off.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And in my opinion, he actually did learn to sing, but we couldn't get rid of him. So we said, all right, you're going to have to listen to us if you're going to do this. And not even being singers ourselves, we helped him develop a voice. We said, who do you like to listen? Who's your favorite singer? Steve Harriet and Humble Pie and, you know, the whole thing. And we said, well, then you need to start singing like that. And if that's who you like. And so he kept trying, he worked at it, and after a while he got pretty passable. So we said, all right, you know, and up until then, I had pretty much been the business manager for me and Randy. I took care of everything. But then it was time to search for a singer, or a drummer, and we auditioned a guy by the name of Danny Benoit, who went on to be in a band called The Quick, who played around Hollywood at the same time we did. And Danny didn't work out, and then we said, well, we used to play with this guy Drew, and he came over, and we played with Drew, and it was agreed that Drew was okay in the band. Later on, Kevin had a lot of misgivings about him ever being in the band.
Oh, why so?
He didn't feel he was the right drummer for us.
Okay.
Now, much as nope, I'm not going to say that.
Okay, that's fine.
But Kevin liked drummers like Frankie Vanelli, Tommy Aldridge, people like that who could smack a drum, you know, hard.
Yeah.
And that wasn't Drew. Drew was more of a jazzy kind of a guy. He was not that bottom booming.
Would have been better for like a Chick Corea or Al Dino or something like that, yeah.
But there he was. And he looked good, so, you know, we had a good looking band there, except for me, I'm icky. But, you know, and that was the band. That was how it got formed. Kevin, up till then, like I said, I'd been basically the business manager for me and Randy. Kevin went right out and got as a manager right at that time. We got approached by by now, it was so much time had passed, we would have been graduating high school. And, you know, all that stuff I just told you, that took place over, you know, like 5 years.
Okay.
And maybe even 6, I don't know. I have to figure it out for the book, though. It was quite a number of years that we spent just jamming, learning, and being in various bands, and then finally Quiet Riot was the thing that seemed to really gel. Kevin went out, he got a manager, at least a guy who said he was a manager, and he had money, which he put into us. right about then, we did get the offer to play at what would have been our senior prom. And we played that. That was the very first show that Quiet Riot ever did. Our senior prom.
How did that go? Were people like, normally senior prom, they do some cover songs and they have...
No, we did all originals. Well, we did do...
Yeah, well, I'm saying, you know, a normal senior prom, they play some cover songs, and everybody gets close now. And
We did some Alice Cooper, we did some Humble Pie, you know, but mostly it was just stuff that we had already written. And so everybody liked us. You know, by now everybody was cool without things like Alice Cooper and David Bowie and stuff, because they got to be mainstream, you know, household names.
Yeah.
And so now it was okay to look weird. So, you know, nobody beat us up anymore.
It wasn't weird.
It wasn't weird. I did get my ass kicked that night, but it was for a completely different reason.
Yeah, but the looking weird wasn't weird anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And there was a girl there that I just had a crush on all through the years in school when I did go. And I got to kiss her. And other than that, she never had any time for me until that night. She wouldn't acknowledge me at all. And she had a boyfriend named Alan. Wow, little bitch. And there was a party after the prom, and this other girl invited me, and Julie was going to be there, so I said, "Oh, I want to go," and I went, and Alan was there, and he smacked me up pretty good. He was out hitting her, is what happened. He was hitting Julie, and
Lovely.
I tried to step into it, and him and his friends just slapped the shit out of me. And I was last seen running from the love of my life with a bunch of beer bottles flying after me, and limping along and bleeding. And last time I ever saw her. So, but that was cool. And then from there on, it was, you know, Quiet Riot took off pretty well. We had some memorable gigs.
Let's talk about one or two of those.
Well, we played at this place, it was a big hall called the Machinist Halls for machinists. They're union hall, very big, hold a couple thousand people. And like most places like that, they rent it out for events. And they rented it out, and to us, big mistake. And they had a stage of sorts, and we...
What, did you guys live out the Joe Walsh song and play out... Life's Been Good to Me, just like track or something?
No, we didn't break anything. It wasn't our fault. What happened was, well, I mean, you know, this is in Burbank, and if you put out flyers for a party, you know, 500 or 600 kids didn't show up. 2,000 or 3,000 did. And that's what happened there. And it got crowded quickly, because by now, Randy and I and company, we had built up quite a following with all the years that we've been playing. And the fire department came, and the cops came, and they made us close the doors and not let anybody else in. And so we did that, and people still came, and they went up on the ceiling, and the place was built like a gymnasium. It had a real tall, high ceiling.
Right.
And they went up on the ceiling, and they kicked holes in the ceiling, or broke holes in it. I don't know how they did it, but and then, crazy as it sounds, they would go through the hole and they'd fall, and they'd land on this big sea of people out there while we're playing, and there's video of it. And you know, of course, some guy landing on you is going to piss you off.
Oh yeah.
And you know, and then you've got all these guys falling and landing on people, and pretty soon I look down over there to the left, and I see about 60 people fighting. And I'm like, oh shit, this does not look good. You know, now I'm scared. And we were all scared, because you can see that there's even video. It's really interesting. You can see Kevin look up at the ceiling, and it's just like a dotted line. Like some guy called down out of the sky, basically. And so what ended up happening was they rolled out the entire Burbank Police Department, and they came in, broke up the whole thing. Everybody smashed up the hall. They broke all the windows, all the furniture, destroyed it, and that was our fault. And I guess they should have asked for a bigger deposit, because that's all they ever got. We forfeited our deposit, which was like $1,000 or something. It might have even been $500, but I mean, a lot of our people ended up in the hospital with broken arms and things like that, and concussions. All our people got the shit beat out of them, and and this place got destroyed. And it's kind of funny, my parents stopped by because my grandparents were in town, and they said, "Oh, let's, we won't go in. Let's just go look at the place where Kelly's playing tonight." And they showed up, and it's just nothing but police cars and fire trucks and people getting carried out of there on stretchers. And my grandparents were like, "What the hell is this?" And my mom and dad are going, "I don't know what he got into this time, but let's go over here to Bob's Big Boy. It's one of the real ones with the big guy in the front of it." And they, and they just left, and it was just kind of funny. They happened to show up right when all that was going on. But
what was one other one that was less chaotic? That really sticks out.
Well, let's see now. There isn't one.
Okay. They were all pretty much, basically, you guys had the Spinal Tap moments, so.
Yeah. I mean, every time we played somewhere, it got horrible. And the Starwood was a very rough place. When we ended up there, that was probably some of our best gigs, That's when it was actually pretty fun, when music was fun, and being in a rock band was fun. We got paid. We had to work our way up. Nobody in the band was over 18. I think maybe Kevin was. And we played there the first time. And they paid us with a case of beer. That was our pay. You started out on Sunday nights, and if you did all right on a couple Sundays, and people started coming to see you, and they actually saw that you could draw, well, then you got moved up to third bill for the main lineup, which was Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And you played 2 shows a night.
Okay.
And there was always 3 bands. And so we started out third bill on that. We started drawing more and more. And, pretty soon we were headliners. And then basically, because we'd been stuck there so long, we were the house band. And the whole time, Eddie Nash and all that's going on down there, all that stuff was going down. And it was a nice time to be in a rock band. We never saw the money we made. Somebody else got it.
Yeah.
This guy needs to get paid. That guy, you need this. But I mean, we had strings and we had, clothes and although they were sailors, for me a sailor suit. And the image that they wanted the band to be was mischievous little kids who get in trouble, but they don't really do bad things.
Right.
They're not horrible things. And everybody else in the band played that role pretty well, except me. I was always in trouble. And I did mean things. I did bad things. If I didn't like what somebody said, hey, I'd smash a beer bottle in their face and walk away like nothing happened. And you know what? The Starwood would let me do it. They didn't care. They didn't throw me out. They threw out what was left of that guy. And it was a pretty rough place. My dad and Mom used to come there, and my dad once said actually I quoted him in an interview. He said, I went to the Starwood, and I never had stepped over more bodies in my life, and I was at Guadalcanal. And, so it was, night things were very common.
Oh,
I had a girlfriend that was standing in front of the place. Carlo, the black guys, came along, threw her in the car, took her out to Inglewood, raped her, all of them, robbed her, smacked her around. It was a very rough place. And, but we did all right there. And
you guys progressed up to the Sunset Strip in that, right?
Not really.
No?
No, we did some, we started doing some concerts, warm-up for some big bands. We warmed up for Journey, Irony of Ironies. We ended up warming up for Black Oak, Arkansas, with Tommy Aldridge in the band.
What was that like doing that? I mean, those are the guys that inspired. I mean, the Journey thing, I mean, it's just Journey, man. That was what we're, like the Rose Bowl or the Hollywood Bowl?
Journey, I don't remember where we played at.
But I mean, that would have been a big show because they were doing. It was that bad. Well, that was back 70s, right?
Yeah.
So they were just still kind of getting going per se.
Yeah, I can't. I have it somewhere where we played. I don't know. That was actually the day after my girlfriend got kidnapped. Okay. And so the whole thing's a blur to me.
Right. But the Black Oak, I mean, that would have been a pretty big crowd for that.
Oh yeah, yeah. These were 5, 6, 7,000 seaters. The Journey one was a huge concert.
Did you guys just go, holy crap, we made it? Did that kind of go through you guys' mind at the time, or is it like we're still kind of working this and maybe one of these days?
No, we didn't think that at all. We just wondered why our albums were in Japan and not over here.
Yeah, I want to talk about that in a second. But when you played in front of open up for Black Oak, Arkansas, I mean, like we were talking about in the beginning, those were the guys that really inspired you guys when you saw Cooper. What was that like? And did you guys tell them that, holy crap, you were the guys?
Well, of course we did, and they were very nice and all that. And it was a good show. We played quite well. We played also with Angel, who...
Oh, I just talked to Frank Marino not so long ago.
Yeah. We played with them, and that show that we played at was actually the movie that they filmed, a movie called Foxes with Sheree Curry.
And I remember that movie. Christy McNichol in that. Yeah.
Okay. That show.
Oh, okay, because they had Christy McNichol in that too.
Yeah, Christy McNichol is in it, and gosh, what's her name? Big time actress. Did Josh Panic Room.
I don't even remember that thing. I'm gonna have to go watch that movie again now.
She's gosh, who's this actress? I don't know. I'm having a bad brain day.
No, that's okay. We can go look up from Panic.
It's kind of a hard week, but
no, it's okay.
But anyway, she's one of my favorite actresses, and she's just gigantic. I mean, she's Hollywood royalty. And why I can't remember her name, I don't know. But that
was the movie Panic Room. Everybody could find it from there.
Yeah, well, she's been in a whole lot of other things too, and she's a great actress. Somebody I really admire. She was in it, and actually Scott Milo was in it too.
That's right. Yeah.
And there might have been a lot of other people in there too that I can't remember, but. That was that concert with Angel was there.
So what was that like, though, meeting Black Oak, Arkansas? Let's go back to it, because, I mean, those are the guys that really, that's what we want to do. What was that? What was the whole thing like?
We kind of didn't look at it that way. I mean, we were glad to meet them, and we were glad to be on the same stage with them, but we still were of a mindset that our situation was frustrating. And that kind of overshadowed, what we were doing.
Well, let's talk about that. You guys are selling records. When did you get the record contract, or the records start going over to Japan? Because you weren't on a record contract over here per se. You guys weren't getting radio airplay.
I can't remember the exact number, but I believe it's either 62 or 64 different labels in the United States turned us down.
Okay, what year was it that you got signed, but the records went over there?
77, I believe.
What's interesting is nobody really, unless they were extremely hardcore, especially pre-internet, when Quiet Riot hit about '83 with Metal Health and what was the other song that was on that album? Come On Feel the Noise with Slave cover.
Right.
Everybody's like, nobody really knew who the band was except that this girl I kind of had a crush on, and knew this girl I had a crush on. She said to me, by the way, this song Thunderbird is about Randy Rhoads.
Right.
I'm like, who?
Yeah.
She's like, Randy Rhoads, the guy that was in Ozzy's band. I'm like, oh yeah, that was the band he was in. But nobody really knew. I mean, pre-internet, I mean, you really had to dig in. Still, you couldn't find stuff. So, I mean, 77, Van Halen got signed, I think it was 78, they had their first album out, something like that.
They actually got signed before us, so I guess it must have been 78 for us, and it was Jodie Foster in that movie.
Yeah, Jodie Foster, that's right. But no, I mean, Van Halen, I think their first album came out 78, but you guys got signed in whatever it was, 70, or maybe it was 77 they got signed. But anyway, you guys have records over in Japan.
And we got tons of fan mail from Japan.
Yeah, and you had gold records over there. Records were going gold over there, and there's nothing on the radio. Nobody. I'm from Detroit originally, and I'm sure even in Arizona, if you guys hadn't played there or wherever point you hadn't gone to, nobody knew who you guys were. You had your stars over in Japan. It's amazing.
We did get radio airplay in L.A. on Rodney Bingenheimer's Rodney on the Rock, KRLQ,
right.
Very famous radio station, and they played us. They were the only ones.
But I could see how you guys are frustrated because gold records. I mean, people are going out from Japan, and like I said, for me, I don't know who you are, and I'm sure nobody else in Detroit, unless they're really hardcore and were buying imports or something, go, Quiet Riot, that sounds cool. Nobody knew who you guys were either. That had to really irritate the crap out of you guys.
What's interesting is something did happen once that was quite a bookmark thing for Quiet Riot, and that was we were playing at the Starwood as usual, and there was a new band around called Detective, Michael DeBarnes.
Okay.
And some other guys from London or something. And Detective was the first band to get signed by Led Zeppelin's Swan Song label. Okay. So we're second bill for Detective. Okay. And we didn't know at the time that there was some pretty famous people in the audience. And we went out there and we put on probably one of the best shows we ever did. And we clearly blew Detective off the face of the planet. And afterwards, up in the dressing room, these two very big roadies carried in a very big man, and who was clearly too drunk to walk on his own, but I guess he could hear music and know a good band when he saw one, but it was John Bonham. And he said, "You guys are fucking great." And then they carried him out. Then Robert Plant walked in. Said, "You guys are unbelievable." And he walked up. And we thought, maybe they'll sign us. It didn't happen. Next day in the LA Times, there it was, clear as a bell. Right? In the reviews. Quiet Riot blew Detective cleanly off the stage and showed why they're LA's #1 band. But nobody signed us.
Do you think that irritated somebody maybe? Because it was you showed up the record label then, do you think maybe that could have done it?
No, they were very humble. When Robert and John came in, they were very cool.
Did you ever have a clue as to why nothing happened over that?
I gave up wondering after about 30 or 40 labels. Every time, I said, we're not going to get signed. You just knew.
Let's do this. This is a cliffhanger. I'm going to stop here. We'll take a break. We'll come back in a couple minutes, and we'll pick this up. And because this is kind of go off, you go off on your own on kind of your story from there. So we'll pick this up in a minute.
Yeah. Okay.
Part 2 coming. Hang on.